Great to have you, Will.
A fantastic day it is
the
today.
Week before Christmas.
You know, this is the penultimate trading day, Friday, before we have, the week for Christmas. And we're already seeing some good things happening in the market.
You don't want to make no losses. A profit.
Yes. And then you make the profit down and you take, you make the stocks pump and take the profit maybe
you take the
week
profit
of Christmas.
Just before Christmas.
Yes, just before Christmas.
So you can have something to
That's
spend.
the right moment to attack the market, right?
I'll keep watching this market.
So let's look at markets now. We're zooming in on major equities that we track in Africa. At intraday, we saw mostly negative sentiments from those stocks, but except in Nigeria, with the NGX was up 0.42%. 100,000 level, if you can tell you the market capitalization is currently at 61 trillion naira. Then look at the JSE in South Africa. But before we go to JSE in South Africa, we can tell you that Aradel and Honeywell and NACO are the ones, pulling the market in positive territory. Then look at JSE in South Africa. It was down at intraday 1.22%. I'll look at, EGX in Egypt is also down negative territory at intraday, and Kenya closing the markets. That's yesterday's trading session, Wednesday, in the green. We'll hope to see the market continue to close in the green. But we're talking about equities. We want to drill down on Nigeria's NGX and see what's really driving these stocks and, other sentiments in the market. We did mention that Oando held their AGM, the annual general meeting, on Tuesday, and we saw some good things coming out of that. And we're going to be talking to Vincent Oshoma, securities dealer, Midpoint Capital Limited, is joining us via Zoom. Good afternoon, Vincent. Good to have you on the show.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
I was mentioning, as I was talking, I said Oando held its AGM on Tuesday, December the 17th, and we saw some of the results coming out of there, some of the resolutions. We saw the reappointment of some auditors, election of directors, re-election of directors. Are we seeing corporate governance restructuring or rebranding here? Are we going to see something different in terms of corporate governance from Oando?
Yes, it was an interesting meeting for Oando. We know that they have not had their meeting for a long AGM for some time, and it's quite exciting for the shareholders having such meeting. And also it helps in resolving a lot of issues, talking about the appointment of, ratifying the appointment of some directors, and also talking about the company's position recently in terms of the acquisition of Nigerian AGM and how that has affected their operations. And also the issue of delisting, which has been a burning issue, was also part of what was laid to rest in that meeting, with the MD talking about no plans for them to go private. And I think that's quite reassuring for a lot of shareholders, knowing that they're still going to keep enjoying the benefits, especially considering now that Oando is coming out of it after a long time. So shareholders will want to enjoy the benefits that currently are accruing to the company, the acquisition and recent restructuring.
Okay, there was also a financial restructuring. Let me just read some of it there. We said that they hope to simplify debt, and there's also a swap debt for shareholder benefits. And that's one of it is that they would accept shares instead of cash to reduce debt and strengthen finances. They also distribute shares or cash value to shareholders based on ownership. So they're looking at a lot of things here in terms of, strengthening their financial status here. How do you see this benefiting shareholders in the long run?
Yeah, I think for the cash dividend, share dividends compared to cash dividend, one of the things that the shareholders were asking for, in fact, that they wanted dividend. And one of the things that was alluded to by the board of directors is the fact that looking at the company from where it was from the beginning of the year, where it is now, you can see that there have been a lot of capital appreciation. So for shareholders that want to have some homemade dividend, it can be for them to sell some of their shares to get some dividend, because the company has actually helped them in appreciating the value, increasing value for them, for the company. I think that's one of the things that was alluded to. Then there's also a restructuring that was mentioned with respect to a receivable to the company. One of a shareholder trying to transfer, do an exchange for changing its debts to equities, and that will result in an increase in the equity, because they plan to distribute those shares after there being that concluded that transaction. the company plan to distribute those shares to shareholders. I think that's part of the way of rewarding shareholders for their loyalty in terms of distributing some shares, which for those that want to convert those shares to competitive, then they can convert it. I think that's a good thing.
Oh, that's great news to know. But this begs the question, the listing is definitely or obviously out of the way now.
Pardon, I didn't get that.
I mean, Oando did, indicate that they would want to delist from the NGX earlier in the year, but right now, I don't think that is happening, is it?
Yes, according to the MD, they don't plan to delist for now. That's not happening. So I think, like I said, that's quite reassuring because it has been an issue on Oando for years, not just this year, since for some time now. And they have kept on postponing the court order meeting. So now that it has been put to rest, I think it's quite reassuring for the shareholder, especially looking at what is currently happening in the company, acquisition of Power, and also expected improvement in their operations. Like the MD mentioned, currently they are currently about $30,000 per barrels per day, and they have plans to increase it to 100,000 barrels per day. Also, there are plans to increase their gas production because they're a major player in the gas sector, subsector. So there are plans to increase their gas production, and that will definitely increase the fortune of the company, make things better. So shareholders would like to share in these things, not the company going private after they have been with the company for years. I think it's a good one for all shareholders, and also a good one for the market because it's definitely going to improve the market cap balance.
Okay, now let's just take a look at the burning question, the burning topic here, which is the budget presentation yesterday, 2025 budget. And looking at the sectors that were prioritized in that budget, how would investors, in your opinion, position to take advantage, especially as we enter into the new year?
Yeah, looking at the budget, you can see that the major sector, the number one, in terms of the chunk of in terms of the size of the budget, the security sector is taking a huge chunk of the budget, and that we all know the reason for that, the current security challenges, both in the north and southern part of the country. I think is a good thing, and it also have an impact in the overall economy because we look at the current inflation figure. The major driver of inflation is food inflation, and it's kind of attribute that to the challenges in which is especially the food basket of the country. So being able to solve the security challenges in the have impact on both the especially inflation figures. And also we now also talk of infrastructure, which is also a good thing. You know that the growth in infrastructure budget definitely will affect companies that are in the industrial goods sector, and that's a good one. Definitely should expect that to impact companies in the cement sector. I'm also talking about the X sector. It's also taking a major part of the budget. I think looking at companies in the pharmaceutical sector, that's a good one for them. I think we expect these to actually impact the economy. But like most analysts, we agree that it is one thing for the government to craft a very good budget, looking at the figures. It's another thing for us to also talk about the implementation, because we sometimes look at this budget and we don't really see implementation to actually see the impact. Because one thing people always say is that after the budget has been implemented, we want to actually see a review to know to what extent and what are the sectors that are really being impacted. That's very important.
Okay, just very quickly before I let you go, you talked about the security. What stocks can investors, key into here to be able to benefit from that sector? Because looking at the NGX, we don't think there's any stock that, relates to that.
Sorry, I didn't get that, sorry.
What stocks in the securities department or sector can investors key into to benefit from, that sector, from that budget?
Like I mentioned, the industrial goods sector, talking about companies in the cement subsector, I think that's it, because the infrastructure project, definitely, especially with the minister talking about using cement for most of the road project, I think that is a good one for companies that are in that space. Then I also mentioned the pharmaceutical. We have a lot of companies in the pharmaceutical sector. I think that's also the companies that people can also look at. Then another good thing that I also mentioned, just mentioned, is the fact that the president mentioned targeting 15% inflation. Though a lot of persons will say it's a far out because of we are currently at 34.6 and you're talking about 15%. But I think that would be a good one if you're able to make some appreciable progress in terms of reducing the inflation, and that would be good for our market.
Thank you so much, Vincent Oshoma, securities dealer, Midpoint Capital. Just hope that the 15% inflation target is not wishful thinking, but they're going to put policies and take actions to be able to realize that. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
So look at the Middle East. We see major stocks were in the red, mostly in the red, 0.1. Except for Dubai, we see 0.11% for Dubai. Abu Dhabi down 0.2%. Let's look at Saudi Arabia and the Tadawul, that's Saudi Arabia, 0.75%, and Qatari index was 1.13% down. Also, Asia markets was, it was pretty, much bloody for them because, we saw that the Fed, cut interest rates at 0.25% as expected, but told investors that they may not be having as many cuts in the future, and that really dampened market sentiment. And you saw some stocks nosediving as a result of that, plunging. I'm sure Ladis was also plunging with that conversation. It was a plunging with it.
Some are asking maybe investors were overreacting.
I don't think they were overreacting. I guess they've been pampered with all the cuts coming in,
right?
And they were
cut
expecting too much. Would you say it's an entitlement thing now that they're expecting the market to just respond to their needs?
If they will keep cutting in 2025. But that's a damper there. But the Jerome Powell also said that if inflation continues, going towards their target, then they might keep cutting.
Yes, but I think maybe some people want inflation to keep going up, and they just want the Fed to keep cutting the rates.
Even if it goes up,
just keep cutting the rates.
Nah, it doesn't work that way. Thank you so much, Will, there for giving us details of what's playing out in those markets.